morning. We're learning as Chus for Shleima Filan Chaya Basarach and for Basi and Baschaya. We're on Daf Kuf Yud Amud Beis, in the middle of the Yom. Amalei Abaya L'Rav Safra, about 9 lines down. Amalei Abaya L'Rav Safra, Kisalka Lahasam. When you get to Bavel, he was making a trip. Boy Minayu, ask the following question: Kavda Ma'asambe. What do you do with the liver? Liver is an unusual thing. So we'll just give the background of kavda. A liver has a lot of blood in it. It's considered to have hardened blood. It's fully made up of blood, and it's all hardened blood. Now the general rule, no, general rule of dam of a behemoth is that dam evarim shaloi pirish. If you have blood from one of the evarim, from the different parts of an animal that has not been separated, it's still in the aver, it's mutter. So if you want to eat raw steak, it's not a problem. Or raw, let's say a raw spleen, for example. The problem is once it's dam evarim sheperish, once the dam leaves, then it becomes aser with a lav. Now, therefore, if you're going to cook one of these evarim, you're going to cook one of the organs, the blood will come out in the course of cooking. So at which point it will become dam evarim shepirish, which is aser, and then the dam will go back into the meat and will aser. So usually the way you could avoid that is you either roast the meat, you tzail it, you roast it over a fire, that extracts the blood, or you salt it. However, the blood in a liver is so thick, there's so much blood that just salting it doesn't work. The only thing that works to get it out is roasting it. But there is a difference. Yeah. So the question is, what do you do with the what's the din if you cook a liver that had not had the dam removed by roasting? Kisalik ashkechei l'Rav Zrika. So I'm sorry. So he asked ma etembe. So he was asking, what's the din with the liver? So the question is, are you allowed to cook a liver in a pot? While it's like we said, it's hard in blood, and the blood of the liver does not come out with salting. But we also say, since this blood is hardened, it's so saturated in the liver, and it becomes almost like a piece of solid meat, the blood. We say that doesn't have the din of blood that is aser. The Gemara, we said this earlier. Rashi explained earlier there were different pirushim about why not, but essentially we learn it out from a pasuk that such blood, such hard blood, is not going to be aser. So the Torah says, and since this is hard, it's solid, therefore it's not included in that. Or you say it's because since the Kehanim could eat whatever's not brought on the Mizbeach, and the liver is not on the Mizbeach, so therefore it's mutter. This is where we see that the dam of the liver is mutter. So the question is, does this heter of the blood of the liver that was saying is mutter to eat, does that also go so far as when you cook it, that when it leaves the liver, it has the din like all other blood when it leaves an organ, that it becomes dam haperish min ha'evarim, dam evarim sheperish, which is aser, or do we say liver is a special case and it's going to be mutter? So that was the question. Kisolik. So when Abaya arrived in Babel, Ashke Rav Zrika, he found Rav Zrika. Amle, Ano Shalkile Ravami. V'achel, he said, and Rav Zrika told him, I cooked for Ravami a kaved, a liver, and he ate it. So you see, the taka, it's mutadit. Kiasol gave Amalei, Lemesa Nafshaloi Kami Boili. He said this was never a question for me about whether the liver itself is mutter. Like we said, liver is an unusual case. The blood is mutter, and even when it leaves, it still remains mutter. Even if it goes back into the liver, it's not like other avarim that when you cook them they become aser, and they aser the thing that it was the let's say the piece of meat that was cooked becomes aser if it wasn't salted or roasted before. Liver is an exception. My question is, if you take liver and you cook it with something else, does it aser that other thing? So Gemara asks, why is it that we're not worried about the liver itself becoming aser when it's cooked? We have a Mishnah that says it doesn't aser itself. We have a pasuk as far as asking other things that it says it does aser it. Hakaved oiseres of ein neseres. It asks something else if it's cooked with it, but it itself doesn't become aser. Because the reason why there's no question about the liver itself becoming pasul, becoming aser when it's cooked, is even if you say that the dam avarim sheperish in it is aser, liver, since it's so full of blood, it is constantly emitting blood. It's being pilot, and so while it's being pilot, it's unable to receive. It can't absorb. So therefore, the liver itself, when it's cooked in liquid, even though the liquid gets its blood, the blood doesn't go back into the liver. But if you put another piece of meat in it, the other piece of meat doesn't have the din of the liver that it's not able to absorb, and therefore that other thing will become asa. So Gemara Amalei, he said back to him, he said that, but that's not a taina. Even though the Mishnah seems to say Oiseres ve'ein neseres, which seems to say that the blood will asa other things. Dilma hasam b'kaveda Amalei Dilma hasam b'kaveda the isura. We're not talking over there about the dam. We're talking about a treifa kaved. Omishum shamniusa. The issue is not because of the dam specifically, it's because of the fats, or it could be the dam also, whatever. All the tam that comes out of the liver, with over there was saying it doesn't go back into the liver because, like we said, a liver only exudes, it only sends out, but it doesn't take in. But if there's another piece of meat inside of it, it will become aser because of the fat or the taste of the liver, but nothing to do with dam. So we don't have an answer to the question, what if you cooked a kosher liver with something else? Does that other thing, do we say the dam is inherently kosher, and therefore it's not going to aser at all, or not? Mishum dam amai. What's going to be the din l'gabe the dam? Kihader salik. So there was not a resolution on that question. Kihader salik, when Abaye went back to, when Safra came back to Bavel, Abaye rejected the response that he had given. When he came back to Bavel, Ashkeler Uzreke, he found Rav Zrika again. Amalei, Hainami loitibal. He asked this question: could it ask something else? He said that also is not a question. First time he had answered him that you could cook a liver. Now he answered him on this, whether to ask something else. That's also not a question. Dano v'yanei breder Ravami. I and Yanai, who was the son of Ravami, Iklon lebei Yehuda breder of Shimon ben Pazi. We came to the house of Yehuda, who's the son of Shimon ben Pazi. V'krivalon kanya b'kufya v'chalna, and he provided us with a trachea in a pot that was cooked in a pot, together with all the meats that are attached to the trachea. The trachea attaches to, among other things, it attaches to the liver. And v'chalna, we ate it. So you see, the trachea was being cooked together with the liver and the heart and whatever, a bunch of other things, and they ate it. So you see that the liver, the blood that came out of the liver, did not asa them. Maybe we're talking about over there where the trachea, the end of the trachea is a tube, and he directed the tube out of the pot so that the bloods that came out were able to, they had a route to go out of the water. It never went into the water to passel them. But maybe if you just cook a liver with something else, it would passel. Inami, like we're going to see, he had actually already he had already used the process to seal the liver. But if you boil the liver or you put it in a sharp substance like a vinegar, that will also it will seal, it will burn the surface of the liver and make it that nothing come out. What do we see? It's Giyadar of Huna. Chalti le bechala. He would close it off. He would close off the liver using vinegar. He would boil it or put it in vinegar, and that would make it that it didn't exude any blood. He would boil it in hot water. He said he wanted to say that if you boil the or if you pickle, I guess, the liver in vinegar, the vinegar becomes aser. Amalei ichalid aser yunami aser. But if you're saying the vinegar becomes aser, it takes a while for the surface to become seared. So as soon as some of the blood goes into the vinegar, it should aser the liver by reversing the blood back into the liver. Rav Bar Sheva, Ikla Lebei Rav Nachman. Rav, the son of Sheva, came to the house of Rav Nachman. Aisile Kavda Shlika. He brought him a cooked liver, v'lo yachal, and he didn't want to eat it. Amulei Barbe Rav Delegav lo yachal. They told Rav Nachman, one of your guests is refusing to eat the liver. Umanu Rav Bar Sheva. It's Rav Bar Sheva who's sitting and he's not willing to take the cooked liver. Amalhu Rav Nachman Na'amu l'Sheva. He said to him, I'm sorry, Go'amu l'Sheva. You should force him to eat. You to stuff it down his throat. Meaning, who is he to say, like we said, we already said there's no question that the liver itself doesn't become asa. So why is he refusing to eat the liver? However, there's a machlekes tanaim on this point that under some circumstances the liver is asa. Eliezer says, like Rav Nachman just said, that the liver itself asers other things, like the way we had explained earlier. The ein neseres, but it itself does not become aser under any circumstances. So Rav Nachman was, according to this, this is agreeing with Rav Nachman that it's totally mutter. They should be let us anybody last because like we had explained, this is the source for it, that the liver only exudes the blood, but it doesn't take it in. Rabbi Yishmael ben Oish, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika, Rabbi Yishmael the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika, disagrees. He said it's not always the case. Aimer metuvelas iseres v'neseres. If the liver had been seasoned, it had been spiced, if it got spice on it, then not only does it make other meats aser, it itself is aser. The spice makes it that it's able to be makabel. It's bailas. It's not just pilatus and not bailas. And also shluka iseres v'neseres. If the liver is stewed, it's like left in a crack pot for a long time. That also makes it that it's able to be makabel the dam. And we happen to have said the case of Rav Nachman was he served him liver that was stewed. So this Rav Bar Sheva was following Rabbi Yishmael ben Asher Rabbi Yechim Breika. Rabba bar Rav Huna, Ikla Lebei Rabba bar Rav Nachman. Rabba, the son of Huna, came to the house of Rabba, the son of Rav Nachman. They brought in front of him 3 soim of bread that was smeared with oil and honey. Amlu mi havi adiisu dasinu. He asked them, "Did you know I was coming? That you had this whole fancy delicacy prepared?" Amrule mi adifas lon mina. Are you more special than Shabbos? Said we were preparing for Shabbos, and that's why we had this delicacy. And once you came, we fed it to you. Adahachi, that's just a side thing. About talking about his visit. Adahachi ashkacha hu kavda dahavaba simpuna, the bli adama. At that point, they found in the house, I guess that he found that after they served him this food, he also found that in the kitchen, I don't know what he was doing in the kitchen, but he found that there was some liver that wasn't just the regular liver that has the blood in the liver itself, but also had arteries that were simpuna, these thin branches of the arterial system that contained blood. So, and they were going to serve that. They were stewing the liver, and while the blood of the liver itself is mutter, as long as it stays in the liver, and whatever comes out, it doesn't passel it. But this blood from the simpuna requires the general treatment of regular basar, that you have to roast it to get it out. Amalei, so they said to him, so what are we supposed to do? At this point, now that that means if the regular roasting is not going to get this out, so what are you supposed to do to get it out? Amlu karu shasi v'chitucha. He says you have to cut it crosswise and lengthwise, and then you leave the opening to go down so it should drip out. V'hani mili kfeda. This is by a liver. Aval tachla, by a spleen, shumna ba'almahu. That's, even though there's some red substance that comes out of the spleen, that red substance is not blood. It's just kosher fats, and you don't have to make a special slicing before roasting it to get out the dam. Ki had Shmuel avdile tafshila de tachli biyuma de avid milsa. Shmuel, on the day that he was having a hakazas dam, that he was having bloodletting, he would make him a meal of tachli without doing any special cutting, because it was obviously it was helpful for the bloodletting, but somehow we see from the lashon that he didn't do anything special. He didn't cut it in any special way. Itma kavda iluya bisra shari. When you roast on a spit, you're roasting the kveda to get out the dam, right? We said that takes out the dam from a liver. If you have regular basar underneath it, it's mutter. Dama misruk sarak, because the dam of the liver does not get absorbed into the basar underneath it. It slides right off it. Kachla iluya besra, but if you have a spleen on top of basar, also a kachla, I'm sorry, not a spleen. A kachla is going back to the previous sugya. A kachla is an udder of a cow that has milk in it. So when you roast it, the milk comes out. Also, then it's also my time. A chalav sruchi masrich. The chalav gets into it gets absorbed into the meat underneath, and it'll become basa b'chalav. Rav Dimin Adoi Masni Yipcha, he had it the other way. Sorry, he said the udder on top of meat is mutter. My time a chalav shchuta derabbanan, because the only chalav that's really aser is the chalav that that comes out when you milk a cow. or came out of the cow before shchita. But when you shech the cow, that's only asa midrabanan. So therefore, we're not geyser when it drips onto the meat underneath it, because it's not really asa. Kavde ili bisra, but when you have a liver on top of basar, asa. Dam deiraisa, because the dam is asa midraisa. Even though we said it, it's not going to get absorbed, but since it's deraisa, the chacham will geyser on it. Darish mareimer hilchasa ben kveda ben kachla tusi bisra sorry ili bisra the avid in lechatchila. Both you can cook both udders, you can roast udders and kaved underneath basar, but on top of basar, you can only do it to the avid, even though it's the chalav is only the rabbanon and the blood slips off. Lechatchila you shouldn't do it on top. But lechatchila you shouldn't. But the evidence it's good. Rav Ashi ikla be Rami bar Abba chamua. Rav Ashi came to the house of Rami bar Abba, who was his father-in-law. Chazir lebrei de Rami bar Abba. He saw his brother-in-law, who was the son of Rami bar Abba. The kashafid cave de ilay bisra. He was taka, who's roasting on a spit the liver on top of the basa. I'm a kamayar high mirabanan. He says, look how what a mechutzav he is. They never said you could do it lechatchila. So he was wondering why they did it. I don't know. I don't know why Taka. It sounds like he was a chashuv person, so it's not clear why he Taka did it. Zakrimar, the ika beidugi. They used to have when they would roast a kind of receptacle underneath the roasting meats to catch the fats. They could use the fats make tallow. Bisra ili kevda nami asar. Even if you have basar on top of the liver, what's caught in this beidugi is asar. Sakdamaru maishna midama de bisra. So Gemara asks, but why isn't he ever allowed to use this receptacle? You're saying if you have kavda, if you have liver together with meat, then it's asr, because the blood of the meat asrs. But every animal, every basar, when you roast it, it's to take out the dam. So why don't you say that dam asrs the fats? Zakti Gemara, dama de birsa shachet, dama de cave the coffee. The dam of regular basar sinks to the bottom, and therefore you skim off the fats from on top, and you could eat it. But the dam of the kavda of the liver, it floats on top. It gets mixed in with the liver, with the fats, and therefore all the fats that are caught are us. Amar Menachem Amar Shmuel, sakin sheshachet ba, also lachtich ba roisech. A knife they use for shchita. When you do a shchita, that causes heating up of the area where you shecht. So the dam goes into the sakin. Then it's also to cut with it something that's hot, because that will cause the dam in the sakin to go out. Soinen, if you're not cutting a hot food, but you're cutting a cold food, some people say that as long as you rinsed off the knife, there's nothing. Whatever's in it doesn't come out when you cut soinen, so you don't have to do anything. And other people say no, you do have to still rinse the place, because some of the tam got onto the outside of the. Some tam goes onto the top layer or onto what's on top of the cold food, and therefore you just have to rinse it off, and then you could eat it. Amr Yudam Shmuel, Ka'ara, a plate.
So rinsing off what? The knife, or rinsing off whatever you're cutting?
The food. If you took a knife, we don't have this, right? We don't have knives that we used for shchita. But I guess if you used, I would imagine, again, you can't paskin from any of this, but this is like a starting off point for learning these things. I guess a knife they use for shchita that got dam in it, so that dam is aser. So that dam only goes on, that's in the knife, only goes on the top level of the cold food. even though there's nothing, the knife is not hot, and the cold food is not not hot, but it still needs to be rinsed off because it's like the cutting like causes something a little bit of substance to go into the place that you're cutting. So therefore you have to rinse off the food. Zok the Gemara. Ka'ara Amar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Ka'ar Shamalach Babasa. A a platter that you used for salting the meat. Right? We're not talking about a liver anymore. We're talking about stam meat that you have to remove the blood. So you could take it out either by salting or by roasting. So you decided to salt it, and that removed the blood, and the blood went onto the platter. Also lechel barisech. Afterwards, it gets a tam basar into the plate. You can't eat hot food on that plate because that will bring out the blood into the hot food. He says salting is like boiling, like cooking, and therefore the salting of the meat caused the blood to go into the platter. And the same thing with pickling kavush. I think that means kavush is pickling. It's treated as if it's cooked, and also that will cause it will be as if it's heated up. Rabin disagreed. He said salting and pickling are not like heating and cooking. Amar Abaya Hada Rabin less. This that Rabin said is incorrect. Dahi pincha. There was this earthenware platter that was used for salting meat. The Havbe Rav Ami that Rav Ami had, the Malach Be Bisra that he used for salting meat, V'tavre, and he broke it because there's no way to kasher of earthenware platter. Michti Rav Ami Tam Rav Yochanan. Rav Ami is a Tam Rav Yochanan. My time at Tavre. Why did he break it? It must be because he heard from Rabbi Yochanan that Meliach is Kureseach, and therefore Ravin, who said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that Meliach is not Kureseach, is incorrect. Yosef Rav Kahana Achva the Rav Yehuda, Rav Kahana the brother of Rav Yehuda, was sitting in front of Rav Huna. Yosef Ka'amar Charash Malach Babasa Asa Lecha Bareseach. A platter that was used for salting meat got dam into it, and therefore you can't eat on it hot food. Utznoin shechatchu besakin, a radish that was cut with a sakin, with a knife that was used for meat. Mutal echle bekutach. You could eat it together with a milk dip. Kutach is a kind of dip that has milk in it. My time, Rabbiya, haya terabal of a surabal. Rabbiya wants to make the distinction. In the first case, when you salted meat, so dam got onto that platter, so the dam is also to eat. You're never allowed to eat dam. It's treif. But in the case of a knife that was used for meat, even though the radish is considered to be sharp and it causes what's in it to go out, but meat is not inherently yasser. It just can't be eaten together with milk. So therefore, that tam is not awesome. So Rava asked the obvious question. I'm going to Rava, Kibala Atera, my havi, Saif, Hayatera, Asili. But when it mixes, if it gives a tam, even if it's mutter at that point, later on when it mixes with the meat, it's also. So what do we care that at the time when it originally went into the knife, it was mutter? The Isuru Ka'achel. Elamarava Hay Efsher Limitame, Bahai Le Efsher Limitame. He says, by the radish, you could just taste the radish and see if it has a taste of meat in it. And if it doesn't have a taste of meat, then you could eat it with the milk, with the kutach. But the platter that has dam, you can't cook something on it and see if it gets a taste of dam because it's awesome. Why don't you get a guy to taste it? A pot which you cooked in it basa, you shouldn't cook in it milk. Then bishul b'noisin tam, and if you did cook, it depends on if it gave a tam. Bashul b'truma liyavashul b'chulin and bashul b'noisin tam. Again, if it has truma, you shouldn't do chulin, and you have to taste it. Maybe bishlam truma tam lekayin. Truma, you could have a kayin taste whether the tam went into the kedera. The basa b'chalav man tamla. How are you going to taste whether something was a mixture of basa b'chalav? But amal l'tam kfeil aramai. You get a aramai who is very sensitive to taste. So why are we saying it's impossible over here? So we're talking about over here where there's no guy who's an expert to test available, and therefore that's the reason why we said it's us. Itma dogim sha'alu b'kara. If you have fish that was you cooked fish, so it's hot fish, and you put it on a plate on a kara that was fleshings that had been used for meat. That hot fish you cannot eat with a dairy dip. Shmuel says it's mutter. Rav says it's aser because the meat plate gave a tam into the fish, and it has now a tam of meat in it. I'm sorry, the meat put taste into the plate, and then the plate put taste into the fish, the hot fish, and therefore the fish has a fleshing taste, and it's awesome. Ushmul amar mutter, noisin tam bar noisin tamu. It's a two-step process. First, the meat put a tam into the plate. Then the plate put the tam into the fish. Once you have a nat bar nat, a noisin tam bar noisin tam, if it's two steps of tam, then it's mutter. This which we're saying from Rav, that he says not bar not is mutter, we know it, we could see it, we could deduce it from what he said. The Rav Ikul Rav Shimi bar Chia, bar Brei, he came to Rav Shimi bar Chia, who was his grandson. Chosh be'enav, he had a problem with his eyes. Of the shaifa bitzah, they made him like an ointment for his eyes on a plate. Basar hachi romule bishula begave. Then they put a food on top of that same plate that they had put the eye ointment. Tomle time of the shaifa, and Rav says, and he was able to taste the taste of the eye ointment still in that plate. He says, you see that something, the ointment put a taste onto that plate, and that plate put it onto what I was eating. So, and then Rav says you could see it. So they see that he does hold a two-step tam is discernible. So Ravalohi, Shani Hasam Dinafish Mirara Tfei. Where says no, that's an exception. Eye ointment is very, very bitter, and therefore it lasts longer than regular food. Rabbi Elazar have a come, so therefore you can't deduce it from this memory of Rav, but Rav had said it himself. Rabbi Elazar have a come kamei de Mar Shmuel. Rabbi Elazar was in front of Mar Shmuel. Aisul kamei dogim sha'alu bakara. They brought him hot fish that went on a meat plate. And he ate it with kutach. Yovle v'lo yachal. Yovle v'lo yachal, and he wouldn't eat it. Amle l'rabcha yovle v'achal v'ad lo yachal achalta. He says your Rebbe Rav would eat it. I gave it to him, and he ate, and you won't eat it. Also the kamei de Rav. So he went back to his Rebbe to Rav. He said, have you retracted that which you said that it's also to eat from a nat bar nat? He said, no, it never happened. They never fed it to me. There was some miscommunication over here. But I never ate it. Maybe they were just trying to convince the Talmud. Rav Huna Rav Chia Barashi have a Yasvi Chad B'Hai Gisa de Mavra, the Surah of Chad B'Hai Gisa de Mavra. They were sitting on two opposite sides of the river. The Ma'asalei Dagum Sha'ala B'Kar V'Acha B'Kusa. One of them ate the hot fish on a meat plate together with dairy. Lamar Aisalei Te'enav Anovim B'Sei Chasuda V'Acha B'Lei Baruch. And the other one, they brought him fruits, figs and grapes in the middle of the Sudan. He ate it without a bracha. Each one said to the other, "Are you like a yasan that you don't know what this is not what your rabbi said? Why are you doing it?" I hold like Shmuel that says that this fish is mutter to be eaten with the kusach with the dairy dip. I hold like Rav Chia, that's why he ate the fruit in the middle of the without bracha. Tanya Rav Chia, pas is called Michel, that the pas allows anything you eat without a bracha. The yayin poiter called mashkin, and yayin allows any type of mashkin during the suda without a bracha. Amr Chizkiya Mishum Abaya Hilchasa. Dogim Shala Bakara Mutal Eichel Bekusach. The halacha is you can't eat the dogim in kusach. Snoin Shechatchu Besatchen Shechatach Basar, and a radish that was cut with a knife that we used for cutting basar. Also Eichel Bekutach. You can't then eat that radish with the dip. Bahani because it's sharp. Bahani means in the agav churfei bala. That's only legabi the radish, because since it's sharp, it absorbs. Avokishus, but a regular squash, gar lebe paske, va'achel. You just have to clean off the surface of where the knife cut it, the meat knife cut it, and then he could eat it. Vipasach b'hu the lifsa, shaper dummy. I'm sorry, skipped. Kilchi, the lifts shari, the stalks of lefes, which is turnips. It's sweet, it's not sharp. So if you cut that with a knife, it's mutter, the silka, but of beets, it's asiri, because beets have a sharpness. Be possible to lift the shaper dummy. If you first cut it with if you cut it with a turnip with it, not the turnip, the turnip. The turnip is sweet, so that cleans off the meat taste from the knife. Okay, we'll stop over here. That's a new topic.
Yes,